Hey everybody, it's Dave. Welcome to Holiday for Two. Today I'm going to do a little ride along with us from Goldfield, Arizona up to Canyon Lake. It's about a 10.5 mile trip. It's the first leg of the historic and scenic called Apache Trail. And this is a really beautiful trip to take. It's about 10.5 miles. You like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. That way you'll be notified when I put out more videos in the future. So like I said, we're going to start off here in Apache Junction, go up through a little town called Goldfield. And there's a lot of history in this area, so I'll tell you a little bit about it as we go along on the ride. Starting off in Goldfield, that's our historic Goldfield, the ghost town. And we're going to go through Lost Dutchman State Park and stop at Weaver's Needle, let you look at the lake from up on top. It's about a 10.5 mile ride, maybe a little more than that. And give yourself a good half an hour because it is windy and slow in some spots. And of course, we spent a couple nights at Canyon Lake. I'll tell you more about that later. If you look off to your right, you'll see the Superstition Mountains. Now, those are famous and going back in history, back to the 1800s. There's a story about the Lost Dutchman mine, and I'll tell you about that in just a little bit. Because there's a park up here called the Lost Dutchman State Park. And according to the history, there's a little story about the Lost Dutchman. A guy who, way back in 1840, there was a family that moved out here from Mexico, and they did some mining in a Peralta family back in 1840. And they found and claimed a gold mine up there in the Superstitions. And mined it for a few years, then took the gold back to their family in Mexico, and then they kind of disappeared. And the story was that they had hit a mother lode, and a German man named Jacob Waltz came out here and explored, and he thinks he found in 1870 he found that mine. Now, if you want to find out more about it, there's a little museum coming up here off to the side. It's called the Lost Dutchman, or the Superstition Mountain Museum. And I've never been there, but it looks really kind of cool. And one of these days I'll go back and we'll pay that a visit and go through there. But also in there they cover a lot of the history of this area and this region, dating back to the 1840s and 1870s. And in a few minutes off to the right, you'll also see Lost Dutchman State Park. As we pass that, I'll tell you when it comes up here in just a minute. But that is a nice little spot if you're looking for a campground for the night. They have campground facilities, hiking facilities, lots of trails to enjoy for biking, mountain biking, hiking, and so on. There's even horseback trails out here. Speaking of horseback, in just a moment we're going to come up on a little town called Goldfield. It's coming up here on the left. There it is, Lost Dutchman State Park. I'll tell you about that in a second. Now, the little town off to the left, this is Goldfield, historic mining town. Right now, it's just kind of a good tourist spot. It's kind of a tourist attraction. They have shops there. You can go shopping through there, the little shops. They also have, in the afternoons, they have like shootout reenactments in the Old West and stuff. They have a restaurant. You can get hamburgers and different kinds of fare like that. And it was packed as we drove through. This was in the middle of the week on spring break, and it was packed. It was you'd be hard pressed to find a parking place in there. And we came through around noon. And lots of little shops here along the way. You can stop and go in. They have some rock shops and gem and mineral shops and things like that. And of course you saw the bait shop there because you're on your way up to the lake, so there are some little places you can pick up fish bait if you want to go up to the lake and do some fishing. But in just a moment we're going to cross into Tonto National Forest. Once we do cross into the Tonto National Forest, then we kind of get into all the parks of the area, and there's a lot of history about this whole area. Now, Lost Dutchman Park, here it is right off to the side. It has, I don't know exactly how many camp spaces are. Our relatives of ours stayed there, and they said it was a really nice park. And they had a 35-foot motorhome, so I think there's a lot of spots. We've never actually been in there. One of these days we'll go up there and stay in there and tell you more about it. But do check it out. I hear it's nice. And since it's one of those parks like that, I think you can use your America the Beautiful pass there. Here we go. Now we're crossing into Tonto National Forest. And like I said before, a lot of trailheads. Besides Lost Dutchman Park, you can pull in off the road here and park and do lots of hiking up into the superstitions. Now, according to the story, there was a German man came out here from Germany. His name was Jacob Waltz. And Jacob Waltz came out here. He claimed that he heard some stories about the Peralta mine. And they came out in the 1840s. He came out in 1870 and claimed that he heard where their mine was. So he went back and looked for it. And according to the stories that I remember, he came back into Goldfield and said he had found the mother lode. And he was going to go back up and finish mining it. And he had actually brought some gold with him. And then they never saw him again. He disappeared. He was with a friend of his. I think his name was Jacob too, actually. Well, Jacob they found him dead later on, but Jacob Waltz, they never found him. Never found the gold, but people went back up there looking for his claim in his mine and all the gold that he found, and a lot of them disappeared as well. Now, I remember my grandpa telling me stories about this area, and my dad, and of course, in the late 1800s, these mountains were famous for being strongholds for Apache Indians. And what people said is, well, you went up there and you kind of took your life, and you were taking your life into your hands going up there. They said that's probably why a lot of people never returned. And it got the name, of course, the superstitions. Of the superstition of don't go up there. Now we're climbing slowly. I think we start off about 1,500 foot altitude, and by the time we get to the lake, it's about 2,700 feet. And so there's a steady climb, and the mountain grades, of course, it says the sign right there, you're going to start running into some curvy mountain grades. And there's not a lot of pull-offs here, so the speed limit through here was 40, 45. And I had some people behind me, and you'll see me pull over here in just a minute. I did find a little spot to pull over so I could let a couple people pass me around, because I wasn't in a hurry pulling a boat and towing it with a motorhome. I was just taking my time. What's really strange on this highway is we saw people riding bicycles. Apparently, a lot of people like to bicycle up this road, and to me that seems like the craziest thing in the world, right? I mean, look at this road. There's not a lot of space on either side to really ride your bike along with the cars at the same time. So it just seemed kind of crazy to me. I think I made a little comment about seeing bicyclists coming down the road. And, people do that, right? I know it's fun and enjoyable, but it's just on this road, it's like, kind of crazy. A lot of little places to pull off and do some sightseeing and scenic views. Bring your cameras, because there's a lot of really neat views, especially in a few minutes when we get up to the Vista point. Just beautiful. Now, if you're from back east and you're watching this video, you're probably thinking, what's he talking about? It's so green. Well, for us in Arizona, this is like lush. This is lush vegetation right now. It's the time of year where we just had a lot of winter rains, and everything greens up. The grass starts to grow up in the desert, and the trees just soak up all that moisture, and everything turns green. Now come back here in about June, and it'll turn brown again. And so it's just, for us, it's a nice treat to get up here and enjoy the lush desert when the temperatures are cool. I think the day we came up, it was like 65, 70, so it was nice and cool. It warmed up to about 80 degrees by the afternoon. Nice enough to get in the water. The water at the lake was actually not too bad. and we boated around, enjoyed the beautiful time. It's the first time we'd ever been to Canyon Lake with our boat, and I tell you, that's such a scenic drive. We'll put that video out next so you can watch that one of the Canyon Lake. But this ride is really beautiful. Just take your time with all these little twists and turns. And like you see right there, there's a few spots where you can kind of pull off, but not really, not a lot. Not a lot of pull-offs. I'm kind of surprised. And once in a while, my wife and I had flashbacks of Colorado coming through here. And I don't know if any of you have seen some of our older videos. We did a video a couple of years ago of our trip back to, we went up north to Colorado and Wyoming and Yellowstone. And traveling through Colorado, we went on the famous $1 Million Highway in our motorhome, towing a Jeep, no less. And I wish I would have done some research ahead of time, but if you're not familiar with the $1 Million Highway, we were traveling from Silverton around on the highway to Ouray, and we reached a spot in the road just like this right here. And my wife pulled out her camera and started filming on her phone, and sure enough, it was a good thing she did, because coming up to the corner, as we turned and approached the corner, coming right on the other side was an 80-foot semi. And he was in our lane, partially. I mean, halfway in my lane. And all I could do was just slow down, stop, and pull over to the right as far as I could and just stop. And luckily, he didn't tear everything up. He did scrape a little bit of the back of the motorhome and did enough damage that the insurance had to repair it and everything. But we could continue on our trip. He tore like a little, I don't know why I say scraped. He did, yeah, he just scraped the back end of the motorhome about a foot along the back wall. He didn't hurt the Jeep. He didn't tear it, didn't take anything out from the end. It didn't do any interior damage, just the exterior of the motorhome. But I tell you, that was scary. You're coming along on a road like this and you're thinking, just tootling along, minding your business, and the next thing you know, come up to the curb and here comes an 80-foot semi. And he's in your lane, no less, or halfway in your lane. So that was an experience. But luckily, we went on, had a very good trip. Went up to Yellowstone, that was great. Came back through Utah, stayed in Bryce Canyon. It was a great trip. 30 days. It was a wonderful time. Now there's lots of little places off here where you're welcome to like pull off and do some hiking. Since this is technically part of Tonto National Forest. Now back in late 1800s, some men from the valley came up here and surveyed this area. I want to say around 1890, 1880s, and 1890s, because they realized the farmers and the ranchers in the Phoenix area realized they were going to need a source of water that would be consistent to help them through those drought times of the year when there was drought or low rains. And so they knew ahead, they had the foresight to come up here and survey all along Salt River. And they developed what was called the Salt River Project. They even used their farms as collateral to get the government loans to build a dam at Roosevelt Lake, which was called the Theodore Roosevelt Dam. That was one of the first dams they built way back in, I want to say 1911. And they built that dam, and then they built several others along the way. You've got several lakes on the way up here. You've got Saguaro Lake, which is on part of the Salt River. You've got Canyon Lake, and then you've got Apache Lake, which is the next one up. And then finally, at the end of it, you've got the Roosevelt Lake, the big one. And Roosevelt Lake fluctuates more than the other rest of them. Saguaro Lake doesn't fluctuate a lot, and Canyon Lake doesn't fluctuate a lot, a little bit. But the lake levels, and Apache not so much. But Roosevelt is the one that gets drawn down, and so it's not unusual for Roosevelt Lake to be drawn down quite a bit, especially in the late summer when they need the water and it's been a dry season. So the men from the valley came up here and surveyed everything and formed what was called the Salt River Project, or SRP, which now, and anybody who lives in Phoenix knows, that's where we get our power and our water from. And they devised a set of, not only a set of dams along the river, but also canals that would feed that water into the valley. So if anybody's lived in the Phoenix Valley, they know about SRP water. There's people in the valley that actually have access to SRP water just by opening up little things to access the water. They can irrigate their yards and stuff. A lot of the older homes do, not the newer ones. I think this is where it might be where I pulled off here. No, there was someplace else. I had some cars that were on my tail, so I wanted to let them go around. But you've got your vegetation here. You've got your on the first part up, you might have noticed the some of the cactus that were along the saguaros, of course. But then you get the teddy bear cholla cactus, mesquites, and palo verde trees off to the side there. There's some of those mesquites and palo verdes. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I get those allergies certain times of year, those mesquites. And I don't think it's the mesquite so much as it's the palo verde. One of those just really gets me, and I think it's the palo verdes because they bloom. And I just start sneezing like crazy. And it's about this time of year, too. So I think I always bring along a little bit of Allegra or some Benadryl or something to help me at night before I go to sleep. Otherwise, I wake up and my nose just starts running like crazy. And so it's funny, I tell people that, and they think, well, you live in Arizona, how come you got allergies? Well, you do. You get allergies. There's certain things out here that can... Years ago, they used to plant olive trees out here, but they've cut back on those. And the mulberry trees. Those were really bad. But yeah, you wouldn't think so being in the desert, right? But it's kind of funny. So they came up here and did a survey and built this road. Was actually one of the first roads built from Phoenix and stopped right around Tortilla Flat, which is a little bit up here past the lake. So each of these dams, the dam for Canyon Lake is Mormon Flat Dam. They each have a different name. I think there's like Stewart Mountain Dam, Mormon Flat Dam, then Horse Mesa Dam. It's the next one. That's for Apache Lake, and then finally Roosevelt Dam. So there's several dams that were built. And a lot of these dams, of course, have hydroelectric power included. Not a whole lot. I think this might be where I pulled off. I think the one for Canyon Lake has about 60 kilowatt generators that has two hydroelectric generators. Horse Mesa, I think, has 3 hydroelectric generators. So, of course, that's where we get some of our electricity as well. I just think it's fascinating that these people back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, before Arizona even became a state, at least had foresight to plan ahead, not realizing what it was going to be like 100 years in the future. And it was just a great thing that they did, because it has helped Phoenix to grow and prosper thanks to all their foresight of planning these waters, the water retention, the dams, and of course the electrical hydroelectric stations along the way. And when we get to the campground, oh, here comes the Vista point. Yeah, we'll pull over here and make a stop. I was worried at first I wouldn't have any place to pull in. It was a little bit windy, but it was nice. I think it was like 74 by the time we got up here. Just a beautiful view down to the lake. If you're coming up this way, you can't miss stopping here. It's just a must-have. Bring your camera, take some pictures. Beautiful. There's I think that's the Dolly Steamboat down there. There's a little boat that you can take around the lake called the Dolly Steamboat. And we passed them a couple times when we had our boat in the water, taking tours from the marina there. And it's a pretty good sized one. I think they can get about 150, 60 people in there.
Oh. I guess. I didn't see any. That's kind of stupid. There's the lake.
I was just joking with my wife there. Saying, how come they didn't have any bathrooms there at the Vista point? So now you're officially in Canyon Lake Recreation Area. A couple things to think about if you're coming up this way. There are not a lot of spots to shoreline camp. There are places in Arizona where you can go to the lakes and shoreline camp, like Lake Havasu by the Colorado River, for example. Up here at Canyon Lake, Apache Lake probably has more than Canyon Lake, and I think most of that's just simply due to the fact that this lake is a real canyon lake. I mean, the walls of this lake are just like canyon walls. It's almost up and down, straight up. Very few places where you can even pull up on a beach area. There are a few, and I will do a video on that one. We went to a spot with our boat called The Point, which is a really nice little spot. It has a boat ramp. There's a beach area. You can even camp on the point if you boat in, what they call boat in camping. Bring your tent, ice chest, and you can camp there for a night.
Here's the thing I was telling you about this, or what?
Now there's a couple of these one-lane bridges here, and most of the time you don't have to worry about the traffic, but on busy weekends, as the weather gets warmer, yeah, you might have to wait here and wait for the traffic to come through and clear so they give you a chance to go through on your side. It's just, there's no signals or anything. You just watch, look ahead. There's enough room. You can kind of look ahead and see what's coming. Otherwise, it's yours.
It's a cool little cove there and everything.
Yeah.
That little cove there you can access with boat. It looked like a really great little fishing cove. Some friends of ours came up, Bonnie and Robert and I took the boat, and we went up in there and just kind of snooped around. And it looked like some really great little fishing holes back in there. You can also fish right off this left here. Like you see where the pull-outs are, you can pull over there and go just put your rod in the water and bring your own fish bait and stuff and fish right off there. A few little places to park, like you see. And then it's kind of it's not too steep, but just be careful walking down to the water because it is kind of rocky and steep until you get up here to the day use area. Coming up on a day use area, just head off to the left. I think the first one is Acacia. And this is not a camp area, this is a day use area. You're going to see some ramadas. They've got restrooms. Just a really nice day use area. There's a beach just for the kids and for people to swim on. People bring their flotations, their floaties and whatever and whatnot, and little kayaks, and just go have a good time. And no entry fee for the day. It's when you get to the marina. To use the marina, there is a fee at the marina, and a fee for riding like the Dolly Steamboat, things like that. They do have facilities there for people at the marina to dock a boat and leave it there year round. Right off to the left there's that swim area I was telling you about. You can see some of the ramadas over there. I think this first one's called Acacia. And you'll just pull off to the left there.
In between.
Yeah, there it is.
I think he was dating Penny at the time.
Okay. I was wondering if it was in between.
They also have a boat ramp there So does this one. Palo Verde has a boat ramp as well. I think Palo Verde is the big boat ramp. Then there's another boat ramp at the marina, and there's another boat ramp at the far end of the lake. And then, of course, the Boulder Recreation Site. You can camp off in there. I don't know how much of a facility it has, like for motorhomes. I think it's probably more for tent camping, because it's kind of closed in and cramped in there. Not really a lot of parking room for like a big motorhome or something. So if you're coming in a big motorhome trailer or a camper, you're going to want to stay just across the river here at Boulder Creek at the marina. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this. Safe and happy travels. Stay tuned. I'll show you some more of this. If you like this video, give it a like, please, and subscribe and ring that bell so you'll be notified. And stay tuned, because part 2 of this will come out next time. In a couple days, I'll show you the next part of our first day at the campground. Have a great day, everybody. Take care. Bye.